It was 2019 at Falcon Army Airfield, the main training base for the military's most advanced attack helicopter. Twin-engine gunships sat in a line, dark and predatory, their sensor pods and cannons giving them the look of mechanical predators waiting to be unleashed. On the cracked concrete in front of them, a class of new pilot candidates stood at attention. Most of them looked like they had been copied and pasted from a recruiting poster over 6 feet tall. Broad-shouldered, necks thick from years in the gym. Near the end of the line stood a man who did not fit the template. 25-year-old Leo Santiago, Filipino-American, 5'6" and 145 pounds. Looked more like a runner than a linebacker. His helmet bag hung from one shoulder, and his brown eyes stayed fixed on the gunships, as if memorizing every bolt. Major Daniel Cooper, a combat veteran instructor with 15 years in attack helicopters, walked slowly down the line with a clipboard. His reputation preceded him. Brilliant in the cockpit, brutally honest on the ground. 3 deployments, dozens of missions, a chest full of ribbons. When Cooper stopped in front of Leo, the air seemed to grow tighter. Santiago, he read from the name tape. He looked Leo up and down, taking in his smaller frame. You understand what platform you're trying to get into, right? Yes, sir, Leo answered, keeping his gaze straight ahead. This is not a trainer or a sightseeing tour, Cooper said, his voice carrying so the entire line could hear. This is a 10-ton attack helicopter. You'll be pulling Gs, flying low through mountains, managing weapons, sensors, radios all at the same time. The cockpit is cramped. The controls are spread out. You're going to fight the machine and the enemy at once. Leo swallowed once. Yes, sir, I understand. Cooper shook his head slightly. I've been flying this thing since before you were out of high school. I know what a successful attack helicopter pilot looks like, and it's usually not someone your size. You'll struggle to reach half the switches without stretching across the cockpit. The physical demands alone will wipe you out before week 3. If you're smart, you'll choose something more suited to your build utility helicopters, drones, transport. This platform is unforgiving. A faint murmur passed through the line of candidates. Some glanced sideways at Leo, curious if he would crack. Leo's heart thudded in his chest, but his voice stayed steady. Sir, respectfully, he said, I'd like the chance to try. Cooper's jaw tightened. For a long second, he said nothing. Then he exhaled through his nose. Fine. When you wash out, remember I tried to save you the embarrassment. The first weeks of attack helicopter training were designed to break people. The cockpit was a tight tandem tube packed with switches, screens, and controls. Even average-sized pilots complained about banging elbows, tense necks, and aching knees. Leo had to slide his seat full forward and adjust the pedals all the way up to get a proper reach. The joke started early. In the simulator bay, someone muttered, "Kid looks like he needs a booster seat." During egress drills getting out of a downed helicopter fast, one of the larger candidates got stuck in the hatch, shoulders jammed. When Leo's turn came, he slipped out with room to spare, hitting the ground and clearing the aircraft in 7 seconds, beating the required time by 3. In the classroom, the tone shifted. They studied weapons systems, sensor suites, emergency procedures, tactical doctrine. The instructors hammered one point. Flying this machine wasn't just about piloting. It was about thinking in 3 dimensions while juggling guns, missiles, rockets, radios, and threats. Leo lived in those manuals. He stayed up late, tracing wiring diagrams with his finger, running through what if emergencies in his head. When the first exam came, he scored the highest in the class. Academics don't win battles, Cooper said flatly when another instructor mentioned Leo's scores. We'll see what happens when the ground comes up at 140 knots. Advanced flight phase arrived. They learned nap of the Earth flying skimming low over terrain to avoid detection. The first time Leo took the helicopter through the training course, the desert seemed to rise up around him. He flew at 90 feet, then 60, then 30 above the ground, weaving between simulated obstacles, hugging the contours of dry riverbeds and ridges. Cooper watched from the chase ship, waiting for the mistake, the hesitation, the overcorrection that would prove his point. It didn't come. Leo's smaller frame twisted easily in the cramped cockpit. He could lean forward without hitting his helmet on the canopy, twist to check blind spots faster, and slide his hands between controls without fighting for space. While bigger pilots wrestled both the aircraft and their own bodies, Leo flowed with the machine. His first run wasn't perfect, but it was smooth, precise, confident. He got lucky, Cooper told the other instructors afterwards. Pressure will still break him. Pressure came during live weapons qualification. Each trainee had to demonstrate competence with every weapon system while flying tactical approaches Hellfire-type missiles, 30mm cannon, rockets. The idea of flying with one hand while operating targeting systems with the other, feet dancing on pedals, mind juggling airspeed, altitude, and threats broke more than a few candidates. Leo's first run was ugly. On his first simulated missile shot, his aim was off. The virtual round impacted 20 meters short. The red failed indicator flashed on the range screen. Reaper to 1, you're done. Cooper's voice crackled over the radio, using Leo's call sign. Land the helicopter. Qualification failed. Leo's hands tightened on the controls, but his voice stayed level. Reaper to 1 requesting one more run. Sir. Negative, Cooper replied. You missed. That's a no-go. Sir, Leo said. Just one more run. If I miss again, I'll pack my bags myself. Something in his tone made Cooper pause. There was no pleading in it, just a steady conviction. After a long second, he sighed. One run, he said. You miss. You're out. Leo brought the helicopter back around. This time, he stopped trying to fly like the taller pilots he had been watching. He adjusted the seat a bit closer, changed his posture, and ranged his hands on the controls in a way that felt natural for his reach, not theirs. He let his smaller size work for him instead of against him. The helicopter thundered across the range. Leo's eyes moved between the helmet sight, the targeting display, and the terrain. His hands moved in short, efficient motions over the controls. He rolled into the attack profile, cued the missile, and fired. Hit. He transitioned immediately to the cannon, walking rounds onto targets with smooth corrections. Then rolled into a rocket run, compensating for recoil and drift. On the range screens, every impact painted center mass. When Leo finished, the room where the instructors watched was silent. No one had ever seen a perfect score on every system in a single attempt. Cooper stared at the printout twice, looking for a glitch. There was none. "How did you do that?" Cooper asked later on the tarmac, not unkindly, just genuinely puzzled. Leo pulled off his helmet, sweat plastering his hair to his forehead. "Sir, when I tried to fly like the big guys, I missed. The cockpit fought me, but I'm small enough to move faster, see more, and reach everything without straining. I stopped pretending I was built like them and started flying like me." Cooper had no comeback. The data spoke louder than any opinion. 6 months later, graduation day arrived. Leo received his wings with the highest overall score in his class. Families cheered, photos were taken, but the real test lay ahead. 3 years later, Leo found himself thousands of miles away, in a mountainous combat zone, where none of the training scenarios felt theoretical anymore. It was dusk when the call came over the radio. A special operations team was pinned down in a narrow valley, ambushed and taking fire from both sides. The valley walls were steep and close, the airspace tight. Standard doctrine said that attack helicopters should stay clear of such confined spaces. One wrong move, and rotor blades would clip rock. Reaper to 1, hold position, the operations officer ordered. Terrain is too tight for gunships. Wait for artillery. Leo looked at his co-pilot, then at the map and sensor feed. The valley was barely 80 meters wide at its narrowest. The helicopter's rotor span was close to 15 meters. That left less than a meter and a half of clearance on each side, at certain points barely more space than the width of a man's outstretched arms. "Those operators don't have time for artillery," Leo said quietly. Over the radio, another frantic call for help crackled through, punctuated by gunfire. "Operations, this is Reaper to 1. He keyed the mic. Request immediate clearance to engage inside the valley. Denied," came the reply. "Risk is unacceptable. You will hold." Leo's hands tightened on the controls. He could hear the fear in the pinned-down team's voices. "Operations, with respect, I know what I can do. I'm going in." Before anyone could countermand him again, he nosed the helicopter toward the mouth of the valley. The rock walls rose up like closing jaws as he descended. Dust swirled. His world narrowed to cliffs, instruments, and instinct. Inside the valley, there was no margin. The walls pressed in so close he could see cracks and bullet scars in the rock. The rotor tips on both sides seemed to graze the cliffs, but Leo's smaller frame in the cockpit meant he could twist to check both flanks, lean to adjust his view, and make constant micro-corrections with his hands and feet without fighting his own body for space. Every muscle remembered hours of nap of the Earth training and days of being told he was too small. The enemy fighters below never imagined a gunship would dare enter. Leo rolled the helicopter just enough to bring weapons to bear without shaving rock. The 30mm cannon thundered, sending flashes of light bouncing off stone. Rockets streaked from the pods into firing positions clinging to the valley walls. In less than a minute, the ambush dissolved into smoke and silence. Reaper to 1, this is Viper Team. The special operations leader came over the radio, breathless. "We're still here because of you. I don't know how you got in here, but thank you." Leo pulled the helicopter out of the valley with the same knife-edge precision he had used to enter. Back at base, when he landed, the operations staff was waiting. He expected to be yelled at for disobeying an order. Instead, the squadron commander walked up slowly, a tablet in his hand. "I just watched your gun camera footage 3 times," the colonel said. "You had less than 5 feet of clearance at points. One gust and that would have been fatal." "Yes, sir," Leo replied. "You understand why we told you not to go in?" "Yes, sir. But I also understood what would happen to that team if I stayed out." The colonel studied him. "How were you so sure you could do it?" Leo thought for a second. "Sir, I've been told my whole career that I'm too small for this cockpit." The valley was cramped and unforgiving, just like the aircraft. "I've spent years learning how to move precisely in tight spaces. This time, the thing I was criticized for became the only reason I could do what needed to be done." The story spread through the aviation community. The footage made its way back to the training base in Arizona. Instructors began using it as a case study, not just in daring, but in preparation meeting opportunity. Months later, on a sunny parade field, Leo stood at attention while a general pinned a high valor decoration on his chest. At the edge of the crowd, Major Daniel Cooper watched quietly. After the ceremony, he approached. "Santiago," he said. "Sir," Leo replied, snapping to attention. Cooper extended his hand. "I owe you an apology. When you showed up, I saw your size and decided you didn't belong here. I was wrong. You didn't just handle this aircraft, you did something most of us would never have attempted. And you did it to save lives." Leo shook his hand. "Sir, you also gave me something important that first day." "What's that?" "Fuel," Leo said, a small smile forming. "Every time training got hard, I remembered you saying I couldn't handle it. It made me work twice as hard to prove that your idea of what a pilot looks like wasn't the only one." Cooper laughed softly. "Stubborn. Filipino," Leo corrected gently. "We're used to being underestimated. We get a lot of practice turning you can't into watch me." Years later, Leo stood not in a combat zone, but back in Arizona, wearing an instructor's patch on his flight suit. New students filed into his classroom. Some were tall, some short, some weary, some broad. "The first thing you need to know," he told them, "is that there is no single body type for this cockpit. If anyone ever tells you that you're built wrong for this aircraft, thank them. They just handed you all the motivation you'll ever need." And somewhere across the ocean, a kid who didn't look like the posters watched his story on a small screen and thought, "Maybe there's a seat for me up there after all."